Welcome, everybody, to the Prime Time Treasure Hunter Big Money Countdown, where we're going to go over the top 10 most expensive and most profitable items that sold in my eBay store for the month of February 2020. So let's start at number 10. I'm going to share my screen here for you, and you're going to see this lot of 36 popular mechanics and mechanics illustrated magazines with one hardcover book thrown in for good measure. That's in red on the top right. I got that one at a garage sale, but the rest of these I sourced from either the flea market and or estate sales. That's where you're traditionally going to look for and find these types of magazines. They're digest format, so they're bigger than the size of a Reader's Digest, but they're smaller than the size of a regular traditional magazine. Frankly, anything that you see that's from the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s that's in this digest format, you want to take a look into, because there were so many different titles. You know, Popular Science is another one. There's all sorts of hobby magazines that were produced in that format that are worth taking a look at. Most of them will have some value if you could source them low enough. What you're trying to do with these mechanics ones is you're trying to get them in those bundle lots when you source them, and you're trying to get them for 50 cents or less. You don't want to pay $1 a piece on them. It might sound like it's a good deal, but it's not going to be profitable, because what I'm showing you here, 36 of them for what I ultimately wound up taking was $50. That's about market rate for this many between these decades. So you got to be careful, with your sourcing and how much you're paying for this stuff. This is my breakout of the issues in successive pictures so people could see the full front covers of all of them. Remember, this is my general format of what I like to do when I'm selling magazines, comic lots, book lots. So I like to try to lay them out like this so people could get a sense of the volume of how many are actually there. But when you're dealing with this many, you can't show the full covers in that first photo. So that's why these other photos become important. And then I like to do this side stack right here where I stack them all up. So I give the buyer different perspectives of how much they're getting. Plus, people who buy magazines and books and comic books and stuff, they usually like to see what the spines look like. So I like to put that there. So now we're going to get into number 9, and this is a lot of 13 1980s, 1970s, and 1960s teen magazines. Now, these ones are all ones that are leftovers. What I mean by that is that I had a bigger lot of ones that were full, complete issues. But when you're selling these types of magazines, what you definitely want to make sure you do is look inside of them to see if anything has been pulled out, because often people who had them pulled out some of the posters and they pinned them up on their walls. Now, once in a while, you'll find some stray ones or some loose ones like this if you buy big collections. So you could see some of those to the right, like for Wham and for Billy Idol and stuff. And so I didn't just throw those out. I just kept them. I saved them to the side. I took all the damaged, incomplete ones. So a bunch of these do have damage. There's like one with like a loose cover. And I just put them together in one lot. I made it very clear in the description that this was a damaged, incomplete lot. And I just put it up for auction. This is a great example of how to use an auction. And as you can see here, this one sold for $71 with 16 bids. If Madonna is in any one of these issues, you definitely want to mention it and show somewhere in there where Madonna is located. So, because people are going to want to know that. So as you could see there's the Madonna picture. In fact, look at this layout here. What I did, this is a good strategy to use. I just tried to find some of the most famous people inside the magazines and put those right up front so it would draw people in, things like Motley Crue and, Three's Company and Matt Dillon and Brooke Shields, all, people that have very high status in pop culture. There's a lot of nostalgia behind them, and people would be interested in them. So keep those in mind when you're outsourcing. The next one here, this is an electronic item. This is a DVD VCR combo. This is the Sony SLV D21P. And this one is tested and it works. Did not have a remote. Now, you might remember me sourcing this. Let me take you back down memory lane here. If you remember this video, this is the one where I went into the super secret estate sale mystery bunker. And if you remember, there were all those beeping noises and everything. The guy who owned the house was like scared of what was going on in the world. And so he set up like this bunker inside of his house, and he had security cameras all over the place. And people had passed this by because I think they passed it by because when they pressed the button, it didn't turn on, but you had to plug it in. And then he had all these wires going through all these tubes, as you could see there. And I had to, pull all this stuff out. And this is what I mean by taking the time to do the work, because there were several possible reasons why this was left behind. One of which was just disconnecting all of this, which, it took a few minutes to do, but it wasn't that bad. Sometimes these things look a little more challenging than they actually are. But if you're willing to just take a little bit of time and, disentangle the stuff, you could get it there. You could see, put it right in the box there with all the cables. And if you go into the video, you will see that I said I was hoping to sell that for about $80, and it wound up selling for $75. So DVD VCR combos, definitely make sure that you're looking into those. And as I've shown in other videos, show that they work. As you can see here, I'm showing them actually working. There's the DVD format there working, and here you can see the VHS format working as well. Godzilla 1985 is really only available on VHS, and you can see the play button there showing up top. So, and then, as usual, show different angles of the device. Take the time to take those good pictures. All right, so that was number 8. So let's go to number 7. Cue the saxophone music here for Lady Death. We're going to get into some comic books here. This one over here is number 93 of 200. Lady Death always sells very well for me. If you ever see her in a box of comics, a comic collection, if there's a bunch of Lady Death in there, it's something you should definitely source. She's very popular. This one happens to be signed twice on the cover by Brian Pulido, who created Lady Death, and the cover artist there, Matt Bush. So you could see on the bottom, there's the actual silver signature. That is actually something that was already on the book. It's not a real signature, but the one above it is his actual signature. So, it comes with a COA. I got this in a big collection that I bought. There's your COA right there. And I take close-ups and stuff too, if people want to, take a look at it right there. There's your close-up. So you could just really tell, like, wow, this is really a legit signature. So I only had like 15 cents into this because that's how much I got each comic book for in the lot. So this one wound up selling for $75. I took $5 off there. So always look for Lady Death comic books. Speaking of comic books, here's another one here. This is a complete set of Futures End. Now, the thing that's interesting about this, unlike a lot of other times when I show you comic book lots, a lot of times when I show comic lots, it's the same comic title. But this is different because this is a storyline that crosses over into multiple different comic book titles. And if you look up top, you can see that it's called Futures End. They're really cool covers. They're basically hologram covers. And, they're really neat when you move them around. There's like different things that happen with the covers. They're really cool. I had gotten most of these together in a lot, but there were a couple of issues that were like missing from it. The last one that I was missing from it was Harley Quinn. and I was waiting for the longest time to find it. And eventually I just found it. There it is right there, Harley Quinn. I was waiting for the longest time to find it. And then eventually I found it and I was so happy. I didn't want to even go out and spend the money to buy it. I knew I'd come across it at some point in another collection. And then there it is. Then I pulled it out. I couldn't wait. And I put it all together in one big lot. I was hoping to get more for it. But I wound up taking $10 off. I sold them for $75. But if you could ever, cobble together a little collection like this, or any other comic collection where they're cutting across multiple issues, you could get all the covers. Pick them up. If you could bring that storyline together, collectors love it because then they don't have to go out and do the hunting for it. Castle Grayskull. I did show a Castle Grayskull last month, and I was one of my top sellers. This one sold for a little bit less, but it sold for the price you see. Now we're going to start getting into the $100 or more items. So this one sold for $120. It's a beautiful looking Castle Grayskull. Now it was a little bit dusty and stuff when I got it. So take the time to just take a paper towel and some, little bit of water. It's plastic. It's not going to do anything bad to it. And just clean it up. Get the dust out and everything. Make it look nice and shiny. And look how it pops on that white background. With Grayskull, I like to show it with the mouth open and with the mouth closed, just to show that the functionality works. Again, like to show all the sides, show that you have all the clips, and then make sure you're getting a nice view of the interior. So this really doesn't have much of the interior. It has both floors. It has the throne chair, and it has the trap door, but it doesn't have all of the other floor pieces on top or any of the accessories. Doesn't have any of the stickers on the bottom. So that's what takes part of the value down on this Grayskull. But still, that just goes to show you, even with it missing that much, people will still just buy this and they'll just cobble together the pieces and make their own Castle Grayskull. Showed a year, that type of stuff. Is a 1981 piece, one of my earliest toys as a kid, and always brings back good memories. So now all my Grayskulls are gone, but I'm sure I will find some more. So let's see, that was 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. So let's get into number 4. Number 4 here. This is a universal bridge. Now, this is something you may remember me sourcing over at the flea market over summertime. I even did a video on this once, but this is basically a device that measures electricity. It measures different forms of electricity, measures things like voltage and capacitance and all this stuff. But the point of it is that it looks boring, but I plugged it in. It worked. I said, I can't fully test this because I don't have a way to do that, but you just say the most that you can. Listen, it plugs in. It's sold as is. This one actually wound up going to Italy for a total of $125. So it's sold through the global shipping program. And overall, I'm very happy with it because I had like $5-6 or so invested into it, so didn't spend much at all. So very, very happy. Look for these big boring things. If they're electronic, old, vintage, you could probably still do well for them. And even if they don't work, remember, some of these things will also sell pretty well for parts. All right, back to comic books. This is one I sold recently, just like a few days ago. This is Vision and the Scarlet Witch. Now, this is actually something I pulled out of my own collection. I didn't really originally purchase it to resell, although I do have that in the back of my mind that at some point I'm going to eventually sell things from my collection. Not necessarily everything, but some things. And this was really the right time because of the WandaVision series that is out now through Disney Plus, and this is super popular. So anything that relates to Vision and the Scarlet Witch is really shooting up in value. So like West Coast Avengers number 45 is like anything that is tied into it right now is just really skyrocketing. The Marvel Comics cinematic universe is really just driving the comic market right now. So this is a good one here. This one literally sold for the price you see. From 1985, it's the complete set. I originally invested somewhere around like $30 to $40 into this set when I originally got it. So this wound up just being the right time. The market is super high on this right now. It's a great time to pull it out and flip it. So that brings me to another comic book. Now, this is just a single issue. I wound up selling this one within 24 hours. It's Millie the Model from 1956. It's issue number 74. There's nothing that's really important about issue number 74. The thing I want you to remember with Millie the Model is that if you ever see the title, you definitely want to pick it up because of the name you might see on the bottom there, Dan DeCarlo. Dan DeCarlo is a very famous artist. I actually gave members of my channel who are at my members only live show a preview of this, and someone mentioned, I think it might have been Jen from J&J's Picks and Flips, or it could have been somebody else, I don't know, you mentioned in the comments, said, hey, this kind of reminds me of Archie. And I said, yeah, yep, it does. And you know why? That's because Dan DeCarlo, as you could see right here, he was heavily involved in the Archie comic books and drawing people like Betty and Veronica. So as you could see, there is a startling resemblance there between Millie the Model and also between Betty. So also Stan Lee is involved in this, and you could see there it says Atlas Comic Books, which was a forerunner to Marvel comic books. So there's lots of things that kind of tie together. She's blonde, she's beautiful, she has a great figure. Old romance comic books, sometimes you could do okay with those. I generally tend to stay away from them, but Millie the Model, that's one of those that you definitely want to go towards if you could ever find one. Now you could see even the interior of this one, it's 1956, so the pages are not like crisp and white. They're off white, and they're not super bright, but they're good enough that the person reading this, who has this, is going to enjoy it. So you could make sure if you get something like this, you're not just showing the front cover and the back cover, you're showing many different aspects of it. Give people a sense of what that interior like, so they want to plop down their money. This one sold in less than 24 hours. In fact, less than 12 hours for $215. That's for a raw comic book, not graded, anything like that. I am very, very happy with this one for sure. And that brings us to number one. So number one is this lot of Daredevil comic books. Now this is 60 of them, and these span, notice the word span, by the way, it's not a fully consecutive run. So that's what you want to use. It's a keyword. Use the word span, because that means, hey, it's crossing between this issue and that issue, but you're not saying that it includes all of them. If you were including all of them, that would be a complete set or a complete run. Now, the issue that I had with these is that while they look really cool, and they do, as you could see here, that's that method I showed in the beginning with the mechanics magazines in terms of how I display them in that initial picture. They look really cool, but when you have them in your hands, these have various levels of condition issues with them that individually, if I tried to sell any one of these, I really wouldn't have made that much money. So really, this was something where you really wanted to put them together in this lot. Now here you could see, this is my side shot of it. I'm showing the spines of these comic books right here. And then here's, my individual look at the covers. Like you could see this one here, number 86. It has this crease coming down the center of it. And there's different ones like that have different issues with them. Sometimes the problem is on the back cover. Sometimes the problem is actually inside the books. I looked through every one of them to tell. Now, one of the things that's real important about this, and we're going to go down to my description section here that I want you to see. And you could see the years here span from 1972 to 1978, part of the Bronze Age. I mentioned there's something inside of these books called Marvel value stamps. You want to look inside these books to make sure they're not cut out. They're a little, they look like paper stamps, and people would cut them out of the comic book. So you want to make sure, people will call it MVS. Make sure those haven't been cut out, because you want to mention that if they were. But look here, you could see here, I got issues 95 to 130, so that helps because that's a nice consecutive run. And then I've got issues 132 to 148. What's missing? What's missing here is issue number 131. That's not by accident. Okay, I actually pulled that issue out, and you might remember that I showed you that last month. That is this issue right here. So this is from last month. I believe this was the top seller last month. This one sold for $350, Daredevil 131, which ironically, I couldn't even believe this. This was the one issue in that big lot that was in like near mint minus condition. I couldn't even believe the condition of it. So I sold that one for $350. That was a great one. It's the first appearance there of Bullseye. So you can see right there, really cool, dramatic cover. It's really neat. These here, I wound up taking a best offer after lots of lowballs and stuff, wound up selling them for $325. So that's 2 straight months of comic book sales topping the charts in an over $300 range. But it just goes to show you how interesting comic books are, right? I mean, look at that. You got this one issue that'll sell for over 300, and then you've got to cobble all of these together over here to get that a similar $300 type of sale. So I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, and you're interested in seeing how you see how much comic books could bring in if you get into it and you start trying to learn that new area. If you want to do that, make sure if you want to learn more. I not only have tons of comic book videos in my playlist, but come by tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be on March 3rd, so it could be tonight, depending on what day you're watching this. I'm going to be interviewing Chris from Journos Comics and Pop Culture. This guy is awesome. He's got so much comic knowledge, and he's very entertaining, and I love hearing his perspectives on stuff. And we're going to go over comic book investing and reselling. So set your notifications for that for sure. Make sure you hit that little bell icon up top. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe as well. Put a comment down below. Help the video out. Let me know which item that you like the most. And let me know what you like of the new voice effects. So let me know. Leave a little comment down below, and tell me if you have any suggestions of things that we could do in the future with this. So, all right, everyone. I'll see you back in the next video. Take care.